What's going on, guys? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another video for you guys. And today, after we've completed the signing of Emile Højbjerg from Southampton, we're now going to be looking further to our other positions that Tottenham require signings for. And it's been widely reported that Tottenham are looking for a right back, centre back, potentially a winger. But today we are going to look at the strikers. Now, Tottenham are perennially be looking for a backup striker, it looks like, seeing as we're always relying on Harry Kane. Today we're going to give you 7 potential options that Tottenham could sign as a backup to Harry Kane in the transfer window. I've got Slav with me to go through these options with me. How are you doing, Slav?
I'm all good, buzzing. We've got one over the line. Let's look at maybe the next options we can get. And, oh, you are joking.
What's going on?
I've got family friends coming over for dinner, and they've just got here. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, no worries.
We have to restart. Sorry, I'm recording. Just sit. Can you play with the dogs for? Give me 10 minutes. Cheers. All right, we're good.
Okay, it's all right. We can edit this out. It's fine.
All right. Sorry about that. I mean, timing.
It's all right. It's all right.
I did tell you.
Yeah, true. It's all right. It's fine. It's my bad.
Go on, let's go.
All right. So we've got 7 potential options to look through here with Slav. We've got one over the line already today. Let's look at these 7 options. We're going to analyze what we think is the best course of action, and we're going to look at these 7 options potentially that we could be signing for backup striker for Harry Kane. First up, we're going to be looking at is Callum Wilson from Bournemouth. Obviously, Bournemouth have been relegated. He's been a consistent Premier League striker ever since Bournemouth got promoted. What do you think of this option? He got 10 Premier League goals last season. He's scored 40 Premier League goals in I think 120 Premier League or 140 Premier League appearances for Bournemouth. What do you see of him as an option?
I think what people have got to remember is that the key word with these strikers we're being linked with is that they will be backup strikers. They won't be starting every game. They might not feature in every game. And I think to have someone like Callum Wilson as an option as a backup striker, I think is a great option to have. But then there's the argument of there's plenty of clubs in the league that have 2 top level strikers. You look at City. Even Arsenal have got 2 good strikers. Chelsea have brought in Werner. They'll have Abraham. They'll have Giroud. So I think it's important that the backup striker that we do get is someone of a high level of quality. And I think Callum Wilson could be a good option. He seems to have overcome his injury problems as well. And obviously he'll be available on the cheap after Bournemouth got relegated. And he scores goals. He didn't have the best season this year. He wasn't great. Didn't have his best return. But obviously Ryan Fraser wasn't performing. Junior Stanislas wasn't quite performing. Josh King wasn't performing. And it was a very disjointed Bournemouth squad this season. But I think he's a good option to have. You've got to look at it as if we need a goal, and you've got someone like Callum Wilson on the bench, an England international. I think it's a good option to have. And like I said, available on the cheap, and I think he'll be a really good option to sort of, if we can get that one done. And I think it's a realistic one as well, because obviously, as a player, you look at as a professional striker, if you look at Tottenham being interested in you, you know you're not going to be starting every game. They've got Harry Kane. We've got Harry Kane, the best striker in the world, in my opinion. And so it's really difficult to when you're talking to a striker to say, look, we want you to come and play for us, but you're not going to play every game. You're not going to feature in every game. You're going to play the cup games. You're going to play the Europa League group stage games. So it's a difficult one. But I think Callum Wilson's a great option, and I think one of the best.
Yeah, and I think with his injury record and his Premier League proven ability, I think he might see Tottenham as a really good option as one of his last opportunities at 28 years old to join a club that is competing at the higher ends of the table. And even if maybe he's not first choice, he's going to get a lot of game time in Europa League. And European football for someone like Callum Wilson, no disrespect, is probably a big deal. And although we turn our noses up at Europa League, he wouldn't. He probably would snap up the chance to be starting regularly in Europa League. And I think that's definitely something that could definitely be an option for him at Tottenham. And I think, especially as well, coming off the bench in the Premier League, he offers something different to Harry Kane, a bit more pace up front. And although his finishing isn't as clinical, he's a bit more physical. And I think that pace could be very crucial, especially going to the last 20 minutes of games. He could be a really good option for us, and maybe even with his injury record, he might not expect to be starting every game.
Exactly, and look, I agree with everything you just said. All of his attributes, good work rate as well. Obviously, he's English, so we have the problem. I think that at the club we've got too many foreign players to for the list, for the foreign player list for Europa League and Premier League. And I think obviously he's English, so that wouldn't be that wouldn't affect it. And yeah, I think it would be. I honestly just think he ticks almost every box.
Yep. All right. So okay. So Callum Wilson was definitely one that that goes into the probably would be a good signing book, I think. Rate out of 10 how much you'd want to sign him out of 10.
What's the scale though? What's 10?
10 is must sign at any cost, and 1 is just no way we should sign him.
8. Callum Wilson.
8 Callum Wilson. All right, moving on to Napoli's Milik, the Polish striker who has reportedly been made available by Napoli. He scored 17 goals last season. I think he scored around 12 goals this season. Hasn't been as prolific, but he's been made available. It's different kind of skill set to Callum Wilson. But what do you think of a potential signing of Milik? Do you think he fits the bill? He's a bit more of a tall, physical striker,
I think,
and a bit more European proven.
I think he's a more of a Jose player than Callum Wilson is. Admittedly, I don't know as much about him as I do Callum Wilson. Haven't seen him play very often. Like you said, I think he's a bigger, stronger, more physical player, which is why I think he ticks the Jose boxes. And I think 17 goals and 12 goals in a team where he doesn't play every game. He doesn't start every game, Milik. He's behind Lorenzo Insigne. He's behind Dries Mertens. They've also just brought in Victor Osimhen. Fernando Llorente was playing for them. So he's down the pecking order. And I think, again, it's the key words are backup striker. And as a backup option, he would be a great option to have. However, obviously there's the foreign player status. And also I think his agent came out and said that he wants him to sort of be playing first team football in whatever the next move is for him. And I don't think we will obviously offer him guaranteed first team starting berth every week. But look, it's a different option. It's a more physical option. It's a similar situation when we had Llorente, just a bit younger, more mobile, and obviously he's a really good finisher. Is he Polish?
Yeah, he's Polish. He's played at the Euros. He played at the Euros in I think 2012 and Euro 2016. He played and he got a couple goals. He struck up a decent partnership with Lewandowski. But he's a player who had a very big injury, I think, in his second year at Napoli. It really hampered him a bit, and he set him back a year or two. But I think he's a striker who's shown he's prolific. I think he's got 40 goals in 90 games for Napoli, and as you said, in a team where he doesn't play that regularly. And I think, again, another player who offers a bit more of a physical option, a bit more aerial than someone like Harry Kane. But the only stumbling block is, unlike Callum Wilson, who probably we were looking at between 10 and 15 million, Milik, you're probably looking at between 25 and 30 million. So, do you see Spurs something of that kind of cash for a backup striker?
I think there's more pros and cons in this deal than the Callum Wilson one. I think obviously there's a lot more problems that we would encounter trying to do this deal. I just don't think it's one that will happen. However, I would like it to happen. I think he's a good option, and I think he'll be a good signing.
I think, Levy prefers for the cheaper, low-risk deal than someone. I think he got burned by Vincent Janssen spending 70 million on a backup striker, and that didn't turn out well at all. So, I guess, rate this out of 10, how much you would want this to happen?
7.
7? You'd rather Callum Wilson happens? Interesting.
It's maybe even...
It's Prem proven, I guess. Wilson is Prem proven. Milik isn't.
Exactly. What would you give it?
I think I'd give it an 8. I think same as Callum Wilson. I think I probably would rather Milik. I think I'd rather him coming through the door, but Wilson is just a lot more realistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Next up on the list is Ollie Watkins from Brentford. Obviously, he's a striker who's really come into the fore last season. Scored 17 goals in the Championship. Brentford very nearly getting promoted, but just falling at the last hurdle of the playoff final. A lot of people saying Ollie Watkins is ready for the step up to the Premier League. He's now 24 years of age, hasn't played much in the Premier League in his career, but people are saying he's now ready for the step up. Young English striker. Would you like to see him through the door?
Yes. However, big risk and what will be a big price tag, I think.
You're looking at between 18 and 25 million for Ollie Watkins.
A big price tag for a Championship player, but would he score the goals? I'm not sure. I actually have no idea. I think he's a big physical lad with pace, and he's very good with the ball at his feet. It's a difficult one. do you want to spend a big chunk of your budget on a championship striker, essentially? Albeit he did finish joint top goal scorer in the championship. But
Yeah, I made a mistake. It was 25 goals, not 17 goals. So he really did have a breakout season. However, in the two previous seasons, he only scored 10 goals. So he got 10 goals, and 25 goals. So it really was a breakout season for him. But at 24 years of age, is it just a case? Is it a case of him now ready for that step up?
I think it's sort of would he come to us and be second choice, or would he go to? I saw him being linked with Villa today. Would he go to Villa and be first choice and bag goals there and get himself a bigger move the long way?
He's another striker. He's a bit more of a poacher. He's a bit more of a physical striker, independent in the penalty box than he is someone like.
Yeah, I think he would be like Mourinho. I think Jose would like him, but it's a very tricky situation for him. It's
I feel like the risk might be too high for paying 25 million for a striker who's done well in one championship season. Although he is a young English striker, I can't see Levy forking out that much, and I think there are better options out there for a better price. So I'll probably give this like a 6 out of 10.
I'd give it a 7.
7.
Yeah, I'd go one up than that.
1 up. Okay, 7 out of 10, Ollie Watkins. Next up, we've got another one who we've been linked with quite often, or definitely recently, is Habib Diallo. Now, I've looked at him. He's mainly played most of his career in the second division of French football. He currently plays for Metz. He only got 12 goals last season, and I think that wasn't even in the first division in French football. So I think this is a striker. He's 25 years of age. He's never been that prolific, but he's a big physical unit. He was in the French Liga last season. He got 12 goals in 26 games, so a decent record. But do you see this one as a goer?
No, never even heard of him. I have nothing to say on this. Sorry, I know nothing about him other than his name and who he plays for and where he comes from.
He's 6'1". He's 25 years old. Last season was his first season in the first division, or his second season in first division football in France. Kind of a breakout season. Last season, in the second division French football, he scored 26 goals in 37 games, and this season is 12 goals in 26 games. 25 years of age is not. He's not even that young. So, is it?
I think it's too big. It could be too big of a risk for us, but I think you never know. It could turn out to be Jose's Didier Drogba.
Drogba was a bit younger, but I don't know. Maybe, you never know. He's a big physical unit, but I think at that price, you expect a bit more of proven ability, which it's definitely a big risk.
I think it would be a big risk, and knowing our luck with strikers, we'll end up scoring 2 penalties and an open play goal in a Europa League match, and then we'll never see him again. So for me, I'd put that down I'd honestly give it a 4.
4 out of 10. I guess just for the fact that we need a backup striker. Anyone through the door probably wouldn't be given too much of a miss. But yeah, I think Habib Diallo probably not the best of options for us. I agree with that. I think about 4 out of 10 for me. I'm not particularly excited about that potential signing. Exactly. Next one is Eduard from Celtic. Now, he's had a few prolific years now there. French striker. He's relatively young, I think 21 years old. He's really ripped up in Scotland. And he's a striker with a lot of potential, but might carry a hefty price tag, probably upwards of 30 million. And would he be willing to sit on a bench for Tottenham, although he might get a lot of minutes in Europa League? How do you see that one?
The problem, great player, great future, brilliant goal scorer, £40 million price tag. This is the problem. Backup striker, he's not realistic. He's not going to come and want to play as a backup striker. He'd probably say, look, you've got a great facilities, great stadium, great manager, but I want to go and be scoring 30 goals a season, being the main man up front. No striker wants to be on the bench. Trust me, no striker wants to be on the bench. So it's a different. Again, I'm not sure on this one in terms of realistic. I think he's a great footballer, and I think he'll go on to be a great striker. I just don't think he's what we'll get. Yeah,
50 goals in 83 games for Celtic over in Scottish football. and he's only 22, so there's really a lot of potential
Yeah,
there.
he's a big lad as well. He ticks all the boxes. I just think it's a bit unrealistic. We've got to be more realistic when we're looking at who we're trying to get to play as a number 2 striker. It's like in any position. It's like the goalkeeper. You wouldn't want to sign a goalkeeper. If you're a goalie, you don't want to come and be number 2.
Well, apparently, reportedly, we're also potentially looking at a striker who could play with Harry Kane as long as instead of him. And this is a striker who I know for Celtic, Europa League is a big deal. So if he starts majority of Europa League games for Spurs, that could be quite an attractive proposition for him.
But then the main problem is, I actually think, is just the price tag. He's just too expensive. So unfortunately,
yeah, 22 years of age. Celtic.
In terms of how much I want this to happen, I'd give it an 8. But realistic-wise, maybe a 3, 4. What about you?
I think I'll give it a 9 out of 10 in terms of how much I want it to happen. I think he'd be the perfect kind of option. He's physical, he's strong, he's also got a bit of pace about him. He's got obviously a clinical finish, and those finishing numbers, those goal numbers, that goal record he has for Celtic is really, really impressive for such a young player. So I think he's got a player with a very high ceiling. It's just a case of the price tag. Yeah, I can't see Levy forking out 30 million or 35 million for a striker when he could get cheaper options out there. It's just unfortunate. It's just the market we're kind of shopping in at the moment. Unless we get a lot of money for players that we're selling, I can't see us forking out that much.
No, I do.
But I'd love for us to get someone like Eduard.
I do agree. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you've just said. Sort of a hope, a distant hope for him.
All right. Next up, we have Vedat Murici from Fenerbahce, 26 years of age. He's a Kosovan international. He actually scored against England for Kosovo in a 5-3 defeat a few months ago at the St. Mary's Stadium. He now applies his trade for Fenerbahce. In Turkish football last season, he scored 15 goals in 32 Turkish league games. But at 26 years of age, and he hasn't really been that prolific throughout his career. Do you see this as a striker which would get us excited?
Well, I was going to say maybe, but then I've just read from Fabrizio Romano he's in talks with signing for Lazio. So I'm not sure if this one will happen in any way.
Okay, so is that breaking news? Is it exclusive?
Yeah, honestly, about 10 minutes before we recorded. They're getting David Silva and they're in talks for Murici or Muric, whatever his name is.
How much are they saying? Did it say?
I think it was between 10 and 20.
So not a terrible price. He's also 6'4". He's extremely big lad, and there are some reports that he could be well built for the Premier League, and he's a very physical striker with really good aerial ability. So is this somewhat? So would you want him through the door?
Yeah, why not? I think if we could get him on the cheap, I think it'd be a good option at 10-15 million pounds. I think he'd score goals. I really do think that we've seen he can cause the England defence problems. And I think he would cause Premier League defence a few problems. So I think he could be a good asset to the club. And I'd honestly give it a strong 6, a strong 7.
I think 7 out of 10. I think it's a decent price, and I think he's different enough to Harry Kane. Where we probably missed that threat of Llorente, where we in the last few minutes we'd able to lump the ball up to him and cause a lot of aerial problems. And at 6'4", he would definitely cause a lot of problems, I think. But I think he's as a 26 years of age, he hasn't really pulled up any trees now. He's definitely a late bloomer, but you never know. Sometimes these guys can be the best options, and Mourinho would definitely fancy him for sure.
He's definitely a Jose Mourinho player.
And last but not least, on the transfer, on our options for striking positions, we've got Josh King, who's also been relegated with Bournemouth alongside Callum Wilson. He obviously had that breakthrough season a couple of years ago where he scored 16 Premier League goals, and he was very nearly signed by Manchester United last summer, although the deal never really materialised. He hasn't been as prolific in the following up seasons. I think he scored about 9 or 10 Premier League goals last season. He has been also used out wide on the left wing position. But do you think this? Would you rather him prefer Josh King to Callum Wilson?
I wouldn't. Oh, they're different players. I think Callum Wilson rather is an out and out striker, whereas Josh King is a lot more versatile. Can play out wide, like you said. Can play in a more creative 10 position and also up front. I think Josh King's a great player though. If he was available on a cheap price, I think I'd look at getting him in regardless. I think whichever club snaps him up this summer will have a great deal. And I think he's a really talented boy. He's a goal scorer, confident in front of goal. He's very quick, good feet, and he's strong, and he can hold the ball up as well. I think he ticks a lot of boxes as well. And like I said, I think whoever does get him this summer will get a great player. And I really do like Josh King.
You're a big fan of Josh King and his ability to play on the left-hand side. He's a bit versatile as well. Does that obviously go towards him as well?
I think if we was, for example, to let someone go like Eric Lamela and he was available on the cheap, I think he would be a good replacement. But unfortunately, Eric Lamela isn't leaving and he's going to stay, I reckon. And I don't think Josh King would come simply because he wouldn't get the minutes. He would want to go somewhere where he'd be a first-team player. Obviously, leaving a relegated Bournemouth side to want to come back to the Premier League, he'd want to be. I think he'd be a good signing for a club like Everton and somewhere like that. But again, if he joined us, I wouldn't complain. I think he's a really talented player.
Well, last season he actually only scored 6 Premier League goals, which is a lot less than I thought. Since his breakout year, where he scored 16, he's got 8, 12, and 6.
I don't know. I think the loss of David Brooks and Ryan Fraser for Bournemouth last season, for the majority of last season, was a big miss in terms of their creativity and someone to put the ball in the box for the likes of Josh King, Callum Wilson. So I think you've got to put it into perspective and appreciate the qualities that he has got.
Well, compared to Callum Wilson, who has Callum Wilson only 1 year has broken the 10 Premier League mark, and that was a couple of years ago. He scored 14 Premier League goals. Last season, he only scored 7. So you might be onto something in terms of the prolificity of the Bournemouth strikers.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on. No, I'm saying I think you might be on something in terms of they're relying on those, Ryan Fraser and Sanitas, who haven't really been stepping up in the past couple years.
The thing is, are we looking for a striker to come in and score 20 plus goals a season, or are we looking for a striker to come in and score 10 plus goals a season, take a bit of weight off Harry Kane's shoulders, and just help out where needed? That's the thing. What kind of striker are we looking for? And I think only Daniel Levy and Jose Mourinho and the scouting team know exactly what kind of striker they're looking for.
I think the latter. I agree with you. I think just someone to take a bit of the burden off, someone who can step in and definitely step up when Kane is either injured or needs to be rested, and someone who's going to play, especially in the early stages of the Europa League, someone who's going to play a lot of group games in the Europa League and be our heading striker and who's capable of scoring goals at that level. And I think maybe Josh King could fit that bill. He is a bit younger than Callum Wilson. He's definitely less injury prone. Yeah. But I feel like Callum Wilson is a bit more prolific.
He's a big boy as well, Josh King. He's not small. He's big. He's a built lad. So I saw him in the last game of the season at Everton, away at Everton for Bournemouth. And although they went down that day, they won 3-1, and he was brilliant. And it was really, they ended up going down, but they had to go and win there, and they put on a good performance, and he was their best player. He really stepped up for them on that final day, and I think he's a good player and a good option if we were to go and sign a backup striker like him. So hopefully I think we all know we need a backup striker. It's imperative if you want to compete. We really need to get someone in, regardless of quality. We just need an option. I think it's good that we're hearing that these things, that we're going to get a backup striker in, or we're looking to get one in. I think it's really important. You can't win trophies with just one out and out striker in your club. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, and it's been a problem for our club for a long time. Josh King, if you're rating him out of 10, how much you want him in? 7. Me too. I think he would probably command a bigger fee than Wilson, wouldn't he?
Yeah. There was a time, Sim, do you remember the times where we had 4 strikers at the club? Those were the good days.
Oh, Ben, Keane, Berbatov and Defoe. Those were the good days. There was a time when we had we had Keane, Defoe and Berbatov, and then on top of that we spent 16 million on Ben when we had those 3 strikers ready at the club.
And then we got Pavlyuchenko, we had Peter Crouch. We had some great options.
Not anymore. Those days are gone. We just rely on Harry Kane for everything, and I think he definitely needs. It's time the burden got taken off him. I think we tried in the past with Janssen, especially. I think, and maybe a bit of Llorente, but hasn't really worked out ever since Kane's broken into the team. Really, so hopefully this could be summer. I think Mourinho was really desperate to address that position, and I think it really came to the fore in that period when Kane was injured how badly we needed a backup striker.
Exactly, and I think the COVID break was a bit of a relief.
Yeah, I think it cost us, to be honest. I think not having a backup striker cost us top 4 last season. In the fact of the matter.
It cost us numerous things over the years.
Yeah. And I think that period, because I think that period when we had all those injuries, Son got injured, Bergwijn and Kane between January and the COVID break, where we were just losing every game. I think that period when we didn't have a striker cost us dear, and that's where we lost all our points because we were actually pretty decent once we came back from the restart. So
exactly.
Those are our 7 options. Let us know in the comments below if you have any more options for us to analyse.
We've missed. Comments below.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know who we've missed, who are decent options. Obviously, we only went through 7, but I'm sure there are a raft of options in the footballing world that we could potentially have with our backup striker.
Hopefully,
we're going to be going through right backs and sorry.
Yeah, no, I was saying hopefully we can get one in. We're going to be, like you said, looking at right back. Hopefully, I can get in the studio soon so we can give up with the StreamYard. But yeah.
We need you. We need you in the studio, Slav.
Like Sim said, we need a backup striker, and we're going to be doing many more videos to come.
So yeah, look forward to them. We're going to be doing right backs. We're going to be doing centre backs, and we're going to be doing right backs, centre backs, and potentially wingers as well. So let us know in the comments below what else you'd like to see. Like and subscribe if you like our content. And as always, come on, you Spurs.